All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Health Explained Show. I'm your host, Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and this show is brought to you by House Call VR and WYTV7.org. So I'm very excited to have with us today Dr. Jenn Simmons. Thank you, Dr. Jenn, for taking the time to be with us today.
It is my pleasure. Any opportunity that I get to spend time with you, I'm going to take.
So, how did you get into the field of medicine that you're in?
I have spent my life, my entire career, helping women on their breast cancer journey. And I come by that very organically in that I was born into a breast cancer family. So the vast majority of the people in my family, the women in my family, die of breast cancer, despite the fact that we don't have a genetic mutation. And so there was really never a time in my life where I didn't know about breast cancer. And I decided at the age of 16, when my first cousin, who was a singer songwriter in the 1970s and 1980s, her name was Linda Creed, and she wrote 54 hits in all, but her most famous song was The Greatest Love of All. And she wrote that in 1977 as the title track to the movie The Greatest, starring Muhammad Ali. But it really received its acclaim in March of 1986 when Whitney Houston released that song to the world. And at that time, it would spend 14 weeks at the top of the charts. Only Linda would never know because she died of metastatic breast cancer just 1 month after that song was released. I was 16 years old when my hero died, and her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose. I never wanted another family, another community, another woman to have to suffer in the way that Linda suffered, my family suffered, our community suffered. And so I did the only thing I knew how to do. I became a doctor. I became a breast surgeon. I became the first fellowship trained breast surgeon in Philadelphia. And I did that for a really long time and did it really well. And it wasn't until I got my own diagnosis that I learned how broken the conventional medical approach to cancer is. And I learned about functional medicine, used it to heal myself. And now I am on a mission to change the impact of breast cancer for millions of women because when we approach it the way that it needs to be approached, the outcome is very different.
Oh my God, I can't even tell you. I know your story, but every time I hear it, it brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful. And
thank
thank
you.
goodness that you're here and are able to use your amazing knowledge to help other women.
Yeah,
So it's a wonderful thing that you're doing.
yeah, thank
Now,
you.
we always talk about, it's very difficult for patients to understand their medical conditions, and doctors are getting less and less time to spend with their doctors, which makes it even harder on, like, if we can understand our medical conditions, our treatments go better. What kind of things do you find yourself explaining to patients that really kind of get them to understand what they need to know?
So I think the biggest misconception around breast cancer is that all the focus is on the tumor. But what we think about and what we focus on grows. And the last thing that we want to grow is the tumor. And the
Mm.
tumor is not the problem. The tumor is the symptom of the problem. And so, if we can help people to understand that, and it's not just people, if we can help practitioners to understand that the focus needs to be about 10 steps back, 10 steps before then, because it's whatever is driving that response. Cancer is a normal response to an abnormal environment. And what we need to do is figure out what is causing that environmental shift because tumors are normal cells, right? People like to think about cancer as something foreign, something non self. But the truth is that your cancer is a part of you, and it's the part of you that feels unsafe in your environment. So, what is creating that feeling of danger, that threat? Because it's that threat that has caused your cells to transform and go into survival mode. So, if we can create an environment of safety and security, then that transformation can reverse. And I've seen that happen time and time and time again. I have this amazing privilege to see miracles happen every single day.
This is really fascinating because I'm thinking about my traditional medicine practice and training and which I know, like, now involved in myself in functional integrative medicine, I realize that traditional medicine, though it's great in some ways, it's lacking in others. But we were always taught, like, a tumor is a tumor and that's it. And here's your traditional treatments and that's your choice. And oh well. But now I'm hearing from you that it's a lot more, and that the tumor is the symptom. And so what are the things that you're finding actually help people when they get that cancer diagnosis, to try to not only, like, I guess, the hopes are to get rid of it, but even if they don't, like, to thrive in their cancer diagnosis.
Absolutely. So, the first thing that I want to say is that we need to shift that mindset
Mm,
because, what you were saying, like a tumor is a tumor and you have to fight, right? That's what we're told. You have to fight.
yes.
But that whole premise of fighting and creating an atmosphere of fighting, that is exactly what we don't need. So I want to tell people the first thing you need to do, don't prepare for a fight. You need to prepare for peace, because this is what you want to restore in your body. You want to restore that peaceful environment, that chemistry of joy, as opposed to the chemistry of stress. And so instead of seeing it as a fight and fighting within yourself, because again, the tumor is part of you, what you want to do is look for acceptance and try to figure out what that disturbance, what that fight that's happening in your body already, what that's about. We want to settle it, and we want to settle everything down. And the way that we do that is, first, we put all those pillars into place that promote health. So we're looking at the way we eat and establishing food as a source of nourishment rather than a source of inflammation. So there's no one right diet that's right for everyone. Everyone is going to be bio individual in that what's good for me may not be good for you, and vice versa. However, there are some underlying principles that we can all follow. A whole food, unprocessed, plant-based diet that is rich in nutrients, because this is what is going to nourish us. Fasting, adopting a fasting practice, because we are not meant to be grazers. We're not meant to eat all the time. When we eat all the time, we exhaust our ability to break down the food, which causes inflammation. When we eat all the time, we are constantly challenging our immune system. And what we don't want to do is use our immune system to digest our food. So, adopting a fasting practice, making sure that you have joyful movement in your body. Our bodies were meant to move. And when we don't move, we lose our abilities. And so making sure that you have joyful movement throughout your day, prioritizing sleep. Sleep is where the healing happens. We all encounter tons of toxins throughout our day, both emotional toxins, spiritual toxins, physical toxins. And the time that our body gets rid of those toxins, the time that our body deals with those toxins, the time that our body reconciles is at night while we sleep. So if you're not sleeping, you're not doing that and you're not healing. There's no path to health if you're not sleeping. So prioritizing sleep, making sure that you're decreasing the amount of toxins in your life. And that may be plastics, that may be fake food, processed food. It may be a horrible relationship. It may be a trauma that you're reliving over and over and over again from your childhood. Whatever your toxins are, we need to decrease them and increase your ability to deal with them. Prioritizing sleep, making sure you're moving your bowels, making sure you're urinating, and making sure you're sweating. This is how we get rid of our toxins. So prioritizing those practices. And then we need healthy ways to deal with stress. Stress is ever present. It's always going to be there. We need some amount of stress to motivate us to get through our day and to do what we need to do to be able to respond appropriately. But we are surrounded by stress constantly in the form of cell phones and deadlines and being busy. And all of this stress, it's just mounting, mounting, mounting in our body, causing inflammation. So you have to have healthy ways to deal with stress. You can be a meditator, you can do yoga, you can do breathing, you can do whatever you want to do, but you have to have some healthy way to deal with stress, not alcohol, not pot. You have to have some healthy way to deal with stress. And then at the end of the day, it's about living with purpose, living a connected life, being connected to something, be it God or spirituality or friends or family. But you have to have something to live for, and you have to live in a purposeful manner. And when all of that is put into place, and you can at the same time ask yourself, what is this cancer trying to tell you? What is out of balance? What needs to be changed? Because it's nearly impossible to get well in the same environment that you got sick. So to take your diagnosis as opportunity, an opportunity to look at your life, to take stock, to make things better, and treat every day as that opportunity. And when you do that, and when you promote health, disease goes away.
This is so beautiful. And I was thinking when you were talking about this, is I've seen studies that people who have like a good attitude going into their cancer diagnosis tend to have better results
They
and
do.
tend to live longer than people who go in with a bad attitude.
Yeah. And it even you can use the word that if you go into it with curiosity, you it's okay to be afraid, right? We're all afraid of the unknown, but don't let your fear stop you from accessing that curious part of you. What can I do better? What is driving this? And what can I do to change my chemistry and shift to the chemistry of joy? Because there is no doubt that people who approach this as opportunity approach it with curiosity and embrace the opportunity to get healthier. And my patients are healthier after their breast cancer diagnosis than they ever were before. That you find a new level of health that you would have never known without the opportunity of this diagnosis. So I am not saying that cancer is a blessing. Believe me, I am not saying cancer is a blessing, but it is a blessed opportunity to live your best life if you can frame it that way.
Yeah, I love this too. And I'm just thinking too often we focus on the genetics. And you were saying specifically, like your family didn't even have the genes
Mm-mm.
for this.
Yet,
But
yet
I see,
every woman, yet every
yeah,
woman in my family.
I see too often people, especially patients coming in and they feel like they have this death sentence because they're like, their family members have been tested and they're like, I have the gene, like
Yeah.
I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
So,
And it's more than the BRCA gene, right? It's the CHEK2 gene, it's the PALB2 gene. I mean, there are a lot of genetic mutations that are associated with the development of breast cancer. But and I don't know who said this, like maybe Mark Hyman, maybe Jeffrey Bland, but I think it's Jeffrey Bland. Your genes may load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. And we have control over that environment. So even if you do have one of the BRCA genes or a CHEK2 gene or a PALB2 gene, this is that most of them are tumor suppressor genes, actually. And so it's not that they're going to cause cancer, it's that you're going to be more susceptible. And I love talking about this example because people who have mutations in their tumor suppressor genes, they are even more sensitive to environmental insults. And what do we do for these women? We tell them to start getting mammograms earlier and earlier. Well, mammograms are ionizing radiation. So in doing that, we are almost guaranteeing that they will develop a breast cancer. So we really need widespread education so that people understand what puts them in danger, what sets them up for breast cancer, and what sets them up for health, so that they can make educated decisions and do everything they can to promote their health and avoid that diagnosis. That diagnosis is not inevitable unless you don't know how to promote health. So we really need that focus, that we shift. We really need that shift to health promotion.
This has been absolutely brilliant. Where can people find out more information about you?
Yeah. So I just released my book last week. It's called The Smart Person's Guide to Breast Cancer. You can check out my website. It's Real Health MD. And you can follow me on social. I'm at Dr. Jenn Simmons, and my Jen has 2 N's.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jenn, for being with us. Everybody, go make sure you check out Dr. Jenn's book and her website.
Yeah. And if you go to my website, you can download the Breast Owner's Manual for free.
Oh, I love that. Everybody needs that, and pass that on to sisters, aunts, mothers, whoever else that you know needs, any breast owners out there. Pass it on. And I just want to remind everybody, don't forget to tune in for another episode of the Health Explained Show next week, where we get into some other amazing information. Thank you so much, Dr. Jenn.
It's my pleasure.